Hi there again, and welcome back to our second episode of our cookery demonstrations. The dishes I'm going to be doing today are those are just easy to make that you can share with your neighbours. So if you're making, for instance, I'm going to start off with lasagna. If you're going to make one lasagna, it's easy to make two lasagnas, or make one large one. Even you can multiply some of the recipes by times and a half of what I'm going to do now, and therefore you can cut off some and just pop to somebody who knows that's nearby, and maybe they can cook, but if they're living on their own, they're just not really into cooking that much. So we're going to start off with a seafood lasagna. It's a little bit lighter than a beef lasagna or a chicken lasagna. And what I'm also going to start off with as well is a white sauce. Now forgive me if not everybody's made a white sauce from scratch, but it's really simple to make and it's a great base for lots of other dishes as well. So I'm melting 60 grams of butter. I've preheated a pint and a half of milk. I'm going to melt this butter down. And also in this I'm going to be using frozen spinach. Don't be afraid to use frozen vegetables. Don't be such a snob about frozen food. Frozen vegetables in particular are really convenient. It's a great way of, like, if you have a bag of spinach in the freezer, using a half, put the other half back until you want to get. Waste-wise, there is none. While sadly with fresh vegetables that you buy, you know, they go limp and you just don't use them, or you use a bit of them, probably end up with a rabbit. In fact, some people's rabbits won't even touch gone off vegetables. Right, so you're going to put the flour in the butter and you have a kind of sandy consistency. You want to cook that out and keep stirring because it's kind of relatively dry mix. And you'll know it starts to cook when it goes from like an oily paste to cover more of a sandy paste. That's when it's cooked. It really takes about 2 or 3 minutes. Preheat the milk. Otherwise, if you add cold milk into air, it makes it really hard. Add a little bit of time. Now at this stage, I'm going to use a whisk just to help cream it up. I'm not going to use the whisk all the time, because sometimes the metal on metal will make it go a bit greyish. Turn the heat back up because now it's just getting everything going together. The white sauce, this one's going to be a little bit thick, only because I'm going to be adding seafood to it. This lovely pile of seafood here, which is raw. Some of it's cooked, some of it is raw. But the water's going to come out and that's going to thin it down while it's actually cooking through the lasagna sheets. And also we're going to be layering up the seafood lasagna with white cheese sauce, and the seafood I'm going to mix in with tomato sauce. There we go, we're just going to cook that out for a minute. Just going to leave that there. It's getting quite nice and creamy, not too thick. As you can see, it's now getting nice and creamy. I'm going to get rid of that whisk now. I don't need any more of this. Okay, so we're just going to cook it out. Take a few minutes. Now, personally I think this is a little bit thick. But as a base sauce, like I said, I've got added seafood, which is a basic white sauce and a little bit of seasoning. If you can now add to this English mustard for cheese sauce, for you doing cauliflower cheese. Saute off some mushrooms and then add the sauce into it for a mushroom sauce. This is endless, the uses that you have for a basic white sauce. You can then add some white wine reduction into it as well. You could probably, spices I love. You could probably put some paprika in it, small paprika as well. Right, so I'm just going to take that off a moment. Then for the other layer, we're going to make up a quick tomato sauce. So a little bit of olive oil. Going to gently cook off the onion and garlic. I'm going to be using about 10 and a half of tomatoes. Now, while these, sorry, I'm going to, since the tomatoes from Sainsbury's are really cheap, they're about 50p or something, so about half a tin. If you're left with some, I can stick it in the bag and put it into the freezer. I'd even keep it in the fridge for at least a week. What you can do at this stage as well, you could add a glass of white wine in there. Put the white wine in, reduce it down. In with the tomato. And cook that down. Now what we want to do is cook the onions and the garlic and the tomato down. About earlier on I said I was going to add the seafood to the white sauce. I'm not, I'm going to add the seafood into tomato sauce. We're going to make this into a cheese sauce for the lasagna. I'm just going to cook that for a little bit. So, again, the spinach is frozen spinach. If you use fresh spinach, which is also great, you'll need like this amount of spinach to get this. Well, some lovely person has done this already in a processing company, and most of the processing for frozen food is done in the very early stages after the crop has been picked. So nutritionally, you probably gain some more vitamins from fresh vegetables sometimes as well. Unless you got your own garden, which is even better. So, I'm going to pop, this is about 200 grams of cheddar. I'm going to keep a little bit of cheddar to go on the very top. I'm going to mix that in. A little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of white sauce onto the base. Spread it out. The only reason I'm putting a little bit of white sauce, that's just to keep it moist so you don't have straight away pasta. So, pasta, these sheets are fitting in quite nicely actually. I want to crunch them to get them into the corners. Another little bit of white sauce. Now I'm going to put half the seafood on here, and then we're going to save the other half the seafood for the next layer up. So we've got a mixture of prawns, mussels, squid, and there's some salmon as well. You could use, almost got away, you could use some smoked fish in here as well. Again, push that lasagna into it. My dish is a little bit round, so if you just pinch off those corners, push it right down so you get lots of sauce working in through it. Now a little bit of seasoning in here. You can add a pinch of sugar into this as well, just to take the bitterness off the tomato. But I'm trying to kind of keep away from sugar at the moment. So, tomato sauce, spread it out. And we're going to introduce the spinach to this. So just pop the spinach along there. Just divide it out. We're hoping to get about 4 generous portions out of this. And actually this is going to work out about 150 or so a portion. So, more pasta. Pinch off the corners. bit of white sauce. And the rest is seafood. I'm being quite generous actually with seafood on this. And that's lasagna. I've used a kind of a wholemeal lasagna for this, just to be a little bit healthier. And then we're going to do some tomato. Now the lasagna sheets will soak up a lot of this moisture as well while it's in the oven. And again, if you want any of the recipes, just drop me an email and I'll send them off to you. And I'm going to do the last layer of cheese sauce. Because we've had layers of tomato sauce and then the spinach to it, again, and the seafood is going to make a lighter lasagna than a meat lasagna. And what I'm going to do with this next is I'm going to cover it with greaseproof paper and cover it down with tin foil and put it into the oven for about an hour, three-quarters of an hour to an hour. Now, there's little bits of spinach. Actually make sure they get covered over, because otherwise spinach, that's just going to dry. That's it. Greaseproof paper, because that's not going to stick to lasagna. And then the tin foil, I'm going to pop that into the oven for about 45 minutes. And then I'm going to take it out and add the cheese. So I've just taken the lasagna out of the oven. What's good to do when you take it, I've taken it out and been resting out for about 5 minutes. It's going to stay perfectly hot because it's quite a deep dish. But by resting for 5 minutes, it's going to make it so much easier to portion. Also, if you want at this stage, just chill it down completely and you want to get some nice neat portions, you can do it while it's cold. So I'm going to portion this into 6. And again, I'm going to have maybe some of it now, some of it for a neighbour, and put some in the freezer, because there are days when you don't want to cook. Oh, I can smell the mussels. The seafood lasagna, a drizzle of rich Italian oil over that would be really nice to finish it off. So enjoy your lasagna. So now I'm going to do a vegetable paella. It's actually quite a simple paella. Paellas can be taken very laboursome and take a long time, but I think this one is quite simple and straightforward. I'm using a boria rice as opposed to paella rice as well, so maybe that helps a little bit. So I'm just going to start off with a good drizzle of olive oil. I'm going to fry off the onions. Give it a little bit more oil, because I'm going to put the rice in here as well. I want the rice to be coated in the oil as well. Now at this stage I'm now going to add the red pepper, because I want to start getting those, cooking them down as well, because red peppers when they're like this, they don't have a lot of flavour, but when they're cooked down and roasted or fried, they bring out a lot more flavour. I'm going to be adding some frozen peas, again convenient, just grab them from the freezer. These are artichokes that I got in a jar, plain artichokes, and I kind of charcoaled them off. You can buy the charcoaled ones, but it's just so simple to do. And I didn't even use a charcoal, I just got a frying pan with a small amount of oil and just really heated this up and got it really nice and brown to give that caramelized flavour. So that was 1 onion, about 3 cloves of garlic, 1 red pepper. This dish you can freeze, but when you're reheating rice, you must reheat it quickly and thoroughly, because rice is one of the high-risk foods. So do be careful. And if you're not confident about reheating rice, I wouldn't. Not often I don't encourage people not to do things, but this is one of the things I would say, you know, do have some caution. So I turn down the heat a little bit. 200 grams of boiled rice. This is 2 portions, by the way. I'm just going to kind of seal that off in the oil. I'm going to close it. And then I've got a pint of vegetable stock here that I've just heated up. Again, using the vegetable cubes. A little bit of turmeric. Turmeric is very good for aiding digestion. If you can get the fresh turmeric, the juicing is beautiful. It's very citrusy, the fresh one. So it's quite a different flavour actually from the powdered turmeric to the fresh. And do be careful, it stains. Get this onto your white shirt or my white jacket, it'll be there for life. So vegetable stock. And again, I'm going to put it all in together. I'm simply now going to cook that and keep it stirring occasionally. I've kept back a little bit of the stock, because like I said, you can add but you can't take away. So that's going to simmer that for about 10 minutes. Right, so the rice is nearly cooked. You can see the way it's like getting lovely yellow and creamy in the rice. Just got a little bit more vegetable stock. I'm going to add in the artichoke. Peas. This is just for 2 people. Again, you can easily double it up. You need a slightly bigger pan. And cost-wise, this is actually, so for 2 portions, about £1.25 per person. We're going to add a little tasting. Add more salt, pepper. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to pop it back on, leaving the heat. I'm not going to stir, because what's really nice in a paella is let the bottom of the pan stick a little bit, so you get that lovely crust down there, but without burning the saucepan. A little bit of flat parsley. And that is the artichoke and red pepper paella. Hope yours turns out like that, and do let me know how you get on. It's mark@chefsonthe-move.org. Okay, so what we're going to do next is a sausage root vegetable casserole. We're going to have potatoes, parsnips, carrots, onion, garlic, and we've got some of these lovely herby butcher sausages, and then some red lentils. I'm going to start off with, actually, I want to brown the sausages first, and then I want to bring the vegetables back in there. Allowing 2 sausages per person. And also, we've been doing lots of spicy recipes on these demonstrations, but you can add some curry powder, you can add a little bit of chili to it as well, or some cumin would be nice. But I am going to finish off when it's cooked with some coriander. Again, this is what I mean about heating bits. This is coriander I was using for another thing, and that was left, so I just kept it because, well, it still smells lovely. Right, and keep get these nice and brown. I'm using a chasseur dish, which I like a very heavy cast iron dish, and they're just really useful for lovely cooking. They're not cheap, but however, I've had this for like about at least 20 years. Right, they just become slightly brown. And what I also have is now some lovely sediment down there in the pan, which I want to pick up with the onion. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit, add a touch more oil. And that's just one whole onion and cloves of about 2 garlic. Again, if you want to increase the garlic level, why not? If you want to keep some of the onions in, it'll work out better as well. Saute those up until they're nice and brown. Not too brown, but one kind of transparent and cooked. Onions and garlic, you want to kind of cook it slowly to bring out the flavours. But we have about 3 carrots diced down and about 2 good sized parsnips. Going to go in that. In a little bit more oil. Remember, it's easier to add than it is to take away. And in the potatoes. Slightly just sweat that off. You probably hear me use that term a lot, actually, sweat something off. It's just that you want to just cook it gently, so it's just literally sweating the steam of the fry. There's no actual water in there. I'm going to pop in the lentils. About 200 grams of lentils, red lentils. I'm putting the lentils and the potatoes going to thicken it up a little bit. And I've got a pint and a half of strong vegetable stock. Now, when I make all my vegetable stocks for here, for these demonstrations, we use just little vegetable cubes. They're so quick and handy and easy to make. And in fact, work-wise, when I use chicken stock for fresh, my EHO man doesn't really like it. I have to demonstrate to him that I can make it and cool it correctly. I actually prefer to use the cubes for the chicken stock, but I actually really like fresh chicken stock. So, pop the sausages back in there, bring it to the boil, and then we're going to pop that into the oven for about 3 hours. Because it's a nice and slow way of cooking it. You can actually also do this in a slow cooker. There we are, it's bubbling already. And the coriander we'll save until later until it's cooked. So that's it on that one for now. We'll just come back later when we take it out of the oven. So the sausage and root vegetable and lentil casserole is ready. Just take it out of the oven. So what's happened is the potatoes have broken down a little bit, and it's almost kind of like our own vegetable and mash all in one. The lentils have soaked up a lot of the moisture. Add us a little bit chopped parsley. And again, it's a really easy casserole to do that you can just leave sitting in the oven, and even when it's ready, just turn the oven down on low until you're ready to eat it. enjoyed this series. And with this sausage and casserole, you can actually freeze this as well. And you can also share it with your neighbour. So I hope you've enjoyed it and picked up some useful tips. So do email me. It's mark@chefsonthemove.org.